Well, hello, welcome back to On the Virtual Sofa. And it's so good to see you here on the Stamford Symphony channel. My guest today is one of our first violins in the orchestra, Kathleen Thomson, and she holds the Maria and Alan McIntyre chair. Kathleen, welcome. It's wonderful to be able to talk to you virtually on the sofa today.
Well, Russell, it's wonderful to see you too, from my sofa to your sofa.
Well, you're looking very well. Are you keeping well and isolating and so on?
Thank you. Yes, fortunately, blessedly, I actually in Westchester County, but blessedly, my family, we're safe at home, children home from college. Everyone's dealing with it well, and we're staying in. My freezer is jam-packed. We don't have to leave for a while.
That's great. Wonderful. Now, how long have you been in the Stamford Symphony? Remind us.
Oh my gosh. So when I was finishing my master's degree, which was a lot of years ago, I did take an audition, took a few auditions for regional orchestras, and I've been in the Stamford Symphony since then. This was many, many years ago. In the beginning of, I don't know how many years Roger Nuremberg had been the conductor then, but it was an exciting group to be part of.
We talk a lot at the Stamford Symphony about the very special family nature that you all have, because you've all worked together for such a long time, and many of you play in other orchestras in New York. Say a bit about how that's fairly unique for us in Stamford.
I will say the Stamford Symphony it's so special. First of all, for me to just be on stage together with these phenomenal musicians, because it's an honor to be affiliated with so many great musicians. But we have a camaraderie. We care about one another. We've played together for so long. We've had wonderful leadership that has kept us together. And there's something about that with Stamford Symphony. Of course, everybody has different jobs that they go to and different things that they're excelling at. They're around the metro area, they're around the world. But we know that when we get together, we are going to play some of the great repertoire, and that it's going to be at a high level. And we all know that we can count it. We can really trust that everyone around us is just going to play with such integrity. And so it's not only that we care for one another and we're friends, but that there's such a respect, a mutual respect for the quality of music.
Now, did the violin find you, or did you find the violin? Of all the instruments you could have played, why the violin?
It's interesting. I'm sitting here in my music studio, and there are pictures behind me, and that's my mother. My mother is a violinist also. She's a professional violinist, and certainly in her age, it was kind of cool to be a woman that was actually excelling in the field. At that time was all men. So when I was 5, she started me. So I didn't know any better. I played all along. I think by the time I got to high school, I got tired of being seen as, oh, you're Shirley's daughter. Are you going to grow up to be a violinist just like her? So I might have picked up the oboe for a few years because that was more, it was unique. But then once I got to college and I realized, wow, it's clear. This is what I'd like to do. So I grew up in Minnesota. And then when it came time to graduate, I came out to New York and got my master's degree at the Manhattan School of Music. And while I was there, living in New York City, I just absolutely fell in love with being in New York and have never left.
Now, this must be a really difficult time because you're a musician. The whole point of being a musician is to play, and the orchestra is very fond of saying to our audience in Stamford, we'd all look pretty silly if we didn't have an audience to play to. So we're all on lockdown now. This is week 3. How is it? How frustrating is it for you and your colleagues in the orchestra not to be playing, not to be performing right now? Are you practicing 5 hours a day, or are you absolutely not practicing right now? What's going on there?
Yeah, well, as you said, I don't have my jobs to go to. We were going to have such a great concert together with Stanford and other things. What I'm doing to keep myself playing, I know that when I don't play, it's, I don't know, it's kind of like I don't know, like a addiction or something. I get kind of cranky. Or I think people who are runners, if they don't run, and then everyone in their family starts realizing, go out and run because you're getting cranky. So I know I have to keep playing, and I know that I'm not one of those people who like really, really just plays all the time. I'm best off when I have to practice for something coming up. So what I'm doing, I gave myself a challenge from the first day. As I said, before 10 a.m. every morning, I'm gonna get at least my 20 minutes of scales in. And that's my challenge. And there's only one day that I've missed so far, and so I'm proud of myself for that. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm teaching. I have some violin students. I'm teaching them virtually. I'm also challenging myself that I am making short recordings of myself that I'm landing in my students' cell phones every day, and I'm playing scales. And it's like I have to practice because they're going to hear me, and if I'm not practicing, then those scales are going to be awful. So they think I'm doing it for them, but I think I'm doing it to keep myself playing well. I'm also doing a lot on, I don't play viola, but I own a viola, and I, sometimes just playing on an instrument that's not my main instrument. Yeah, it's fresh and unique.
When I was at university, I had lessons from a former London professional violinist, a viola player, and he was teaching me the violin. And about 6 months in, he said to me, I think you might be better on the viola. And I think that was a big comment about how awful I was on the violin. So, maybe if these interviews go on and on, I might dust it off and see if I still know how to hold it. Now, you're talking about education, pupils. You are one of the most enthusiastic members of the orchestra in terms of our education programs that we do at the Stamford Symphony. Why is this so important? Some people would say, look, it's not orchestra's jobs to deliver music education. We're here to do concerts and chamber music. It's the schools that should be doing music education. Why is it so important that orchestras get involved as much as they do these days?
Oh, the connection that can happen, especially in a community like Stamford, which is a big city, and yet it's a reasonable size. So we can go, we have our new, we're just so excited. We've got this, our new director of, what's her title, of education, Janie, she's bubbling with all these ideas. And one thing, we've always, for many years, I've been involved, we bring the fourth graders in to the West Hill High School, and they all get to come in, and they've been working with their teachers in their school. But new this year, we were able to bring some of the actual musicians of the orchestra into the classrooms. And this year I was so fortunate. I got to go into two of the schools and go in, and it's just me together with 20, 25 young students there on their rug, and they're all so curious. And these were third graders, and they were so excited. They all had they were so curious. They've already been working. Their teachers are wonderful in their school. They've been working with them, teaching them songs on the recorder and getting them prepared. It's a great program. Then when they do go in to hear the orchestra, then the children are familiar with what's going on. I receive in the mail this package, a large, like a big, like 11 by 14 package. And I open it up, and it happens to be from one of the teachers in Northeast Elementary. And she sent all these, the students wrote thank you notes. And maybe the students' words on their own could be enough just to understand. I'll read a couple of these. Here's one from Dear Miss Thompson. We enjoyed you playing the violin. One day I want to go to the Stamford Symphony. I really want to be a musician when I grow up. From your friend Gabrielle. And here's one from someone with interesting spelling choices, but you're good at the violin, and thank you for coming to our class. You know so much about Mozart and Beethoven. Your violin is so cool. And then this one says, he liked playing with the symphony. That means that when the classes came into West Hill High School, they all brought their recorders and play along with the orchestra. And so the kids love that. And this one is great. And he says to the symphony, he says, P.S. You're so good, you should be on TV. And then he's got all these little drawings on the bottom there. It's really important to reach, because the kids are so hungry for music. Sometimes they may not have seen classical music at home. Maybe not all the kids are into classical music, and that's okay. Not everybody likes broccoli. Some people like, but for those kids, if they are attracted to the music, it's just so important to expose them, let them see that this exists, and then maybe they might want to learn how to play an instrument too.
It is fantastic in this, you're talking about our Link Up program, which we've taken into the 3rd and 4th graders, created by Carnegie Hall. Some 150 orchestras across the country do it. And it's, I think, one of the highlights that we do at Stamford, because just watching those kids, hearing an orchestra, feeling the physical sensation of an orchestra for the very first time. I remember when I was 5, 6 years old or whatever, it's a feeling you never forget. And just watching them respond to what you're doing on stage, and the culmination of the work they've done in the classroom with the teachers is so fantastic. And I'm so pleased that you and your colleagues are going into the classrooms now and helping the teachers. I mean, they have an enormously difficult job, and everything we can do to help is so important. So it's tremendous. Play us something that you, little exercise or whatever you've done with the kids. How do you use your violin in the classroom? When you're working with them?
Back in with Mozart, I was talking about how Mozart was kind of a joker, and so one thing I knew they were going to hear, I gave them a contrast between how Mozart was able to tell a joke very quiet, and then suddenly the joke was a. And then, as I would talk to them about Beethoven, and I get talking to them what kind of a character Beethoven is, and then I forgot how I would spin around into it, and then I'd go, and they will all go, oh, he wrote that? And then I could talk to them about how he takes a motif, just a small motive. Again, I think I put words to it. I said, and this is Beethoven's dad. Beethoven's son. Beethoven's. And then talk about a river, what kind of a river there might be, and perhaps a blue river, perhaps. And on that one, they all knew how to play on the recorders that ba, ba, ba. And they'd go ba, 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 ba. Like that. That's just in the fielding their questions. But Russell, you played violin. How old were you when you started?
A long time ago. A long time ago. But yeah, I have a tiny sense of what you guys have to do when you go on stage at 7:30, and you have to be excellent and extraordinary all the time, and you are. I mean, that's what's so captivating about professional musicians. You are extraordinary all the time. And I mean, most people in most walks of life, we have good days and bad days. You guys are good all the time. I mean, that's the amazing thing about professional musicians. It's really extraordinary. Well, we could talk all afternoon. I think we should talk again, because there's lots more we could talk about. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what you're doing at the moment during this crisis, and also the wonderful things that we have to look forward to when this eventually ends, because it will. And when the late summer or the fall comes about, we'll be back in the classrooms, we'll be back at the high school, and we look forward to that. Kathleen, thank you so much. Stay well, keep practicing the scales, and we'll see you again soon.
Oh, thank you so much, Russell.